Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Instant tragic update for fans. Darragh Ennis shocking update drops just a few minutes ago. Broken our hearts, this news must see. Darragh Ennis was a man of many talents, an Oxford-educated neuroscientist, lightning-fast quizzer, and beloved menace of ITV's The Chase. To the millions who watched him glide effortlessly through tough questions and outsmart hopeful contestants, he was a figure of intimidating intellect wrapped in a dark, sharp suit. But away from the television lights, the hum of studio cameras, and the jokes of Bradley Walsh, Darragh was something entirely unexpected. Every Friday at dawn, while most of London was still sleeping, Darragh would slip into an old pair of well-worn jeans, pull a canvas jacket over his shoulders, and head outside the city. Not to a lab, not to a TV set, but to a meadow. A quiet, blooming golden swaths meadow on the outskirts of Berkshire, where he kept bees. Yes, bees. Nestled behind an overgrown hedge and a sagging gate was a modest cottage and a plot of land Darragh had bought under a pseudonym. He called it the Quiet Hive. Few people knew about it, not even his Chase co-stars. It had started years earlier, during his postgraduate years. After too many nights of screens, whiteboards, and ceaseless data, Darragh wandered into an Oxfordshire farmer's market and found himself mesmerized by an old beekeeper selling raw honey in tiny glass jars. "What's the trick?" he had asked, half curious. The old man grinned. "There's no trick, just patience and respect for the queen." Something about that clicked with him. The structure, the intelligence, the loyalty of the hive. Bees weren't just bugs, they were mathematicians in wings. He bought a jar, then a book, and soon a hive. One Saturday in spring, after a particularly grueling taping of The Chase, where Darragh had lost 3 games in a row, an unheard-of occurrence, he found himself mentally unraveling. Not from embarrassment, but from pressure. The headlines had been brutal. The menace stumbles. Darragh Ennis loses his edge? They didn't respond to them. Not then. Instead, he packed his car, drove to the Quiet Hive, and stayed there for 3 days. The moment he opened his first hive box, a familiar hum enveloped him like a meditation. The bees, busily working, paid him no mind. They had a world to maintain. No egos, no critics, just order and instinct. There among his colonies, Lady Nectar, Buzz Lightyear, and Honey Holmes, he found calm again. He was reminded of something he'd once read. If the bee disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live. That perspective, small creatures with massive impact, comforted him. He wasn't a man who needed the spotlight. He needed meaning. One summer, one of his hives had gone rogue. Swarming behavior had increased. The bees became testy, defensive. One afternoon, he suited up and opened the box only to discover the queen had died, leaving chaos in her wake. He watched in sadness as the worker bees buzzed erratically, no longer grounded by pheromone signals. It mirrored, oddly, what he sometimes saw in society, people flailing, leaderless, in distress. So he intervened. Carefully, from another hive, he introduced a new queen, Queen May, bred specially for calm temperament and productivity. He observed the transition with scientific precision, and over days, the workers settled. A new order was established. It was during this period of hive recovery that he began journaling. His entries became deeply reflective on life, society, trivia, and identity. One passage read, "On TV, I am the menace, but here, I'm just another drone trying to find order in chaos." It had to happen eventually. One summer afternoon, Bradley Walsh, charismatic host, mischief maker, and Darragh's biggest on-set adversary, texted him, "Where the hell do you disappear to, mate? You've gone dark." Darragh, after much hesitation, invited him out to Berkshire. Bradley arrived in ripped jeans, aviator sunglasses, and a clueless expression. "Where's the pub?" "No pub," he smirked, handing him a spare bee suit. "You're kidding." "I never kid about bees." By midday, Bradley was elbow-deep in honeycomb, ducking from bees and screaming, "I look like a stunt double from Wicker Man." But by evening, he was silent, watching the sun dip behind the hedges, the bees returning home in golden light, the meadow alive with gentle noise. "You know, this is kinda beautiful," he said softly. Darragh nodded. They live by trivia too, in a way. Thousands of tiny facts, just biological ones. Bradley looked over. "You ever gonna tell the public?" Darragh shrugged. "Maybe." The secret didn't stay buried for long. One Sunday morning, an ITV intern posted a behind-the-scenes photo of Darragh at the This Morning studio. Under his arm, a jar of honey, labeled Ennis Gold. The internet exploded. Darragh Ennis makes his own honey? The Chase star is a secret beekeeper? From questions to queens, inside the Menace's hives? ITV requested a segment. Darragh refused, at first, but when Kat Deely called it too adorable to pass up and Ben Shepherd practically begged to wear a bee suit on air, he relented. The special aired a week later. Viewers saw a different Darragh, gentle, serene, guiding the hosts through his hives, speaking about biodiversity, pollination, and the importance of bees in food sustainability. "You quiz hard, but you love soft," Ben laughed. "Balance is everything." Soon, Ennis Gold honey became a sensation. He didn't want a business, so instead, Darragh launched a charity initiative. Each jar sold donated proceeds to environmental causes and underfunded science programs in UK schools. Children who once feared the tough chaser now wrote him letters. "Dear Mr. Ennis, I used to be scared of bees, but now I think they are amazing. Ellie, age 8. I want to learn science and save bees too. Marcus, age 10. Darragh displayed the letters in a rustic wooden frame in the cottage's entryway. Every time he felt the pressure of television fame, he'd reread them. They reminded him of purpose beyond popularity. In autumn, Darragh was invited to speak at a science and sustainability expo at the University of Oxford. His keynote, "The Neuroscience of Bees and the Trivia of Nature." He stood before hundreds of students, professionals, and environmentalists, blending humor with insight. "Bees," he said, "solve problems. They recognize patterns. They even vote. A hive is a democracy of instinct." He paused. "And maybe that's why I love them. As a scientist, I analyze. As a chaser, I compete. But as a beekeeper, I just learn." The applause was thunderous. Later that night, as he stood outside with a cup of tea, watching students buzz around in conversation, a professor from his past approached. "Never thought I'd see you in a bee suit," the man chuckled. "Neither did I," Darragh said with a smile. That winter, tragedy struck. A sudden frost swept through Berkshire earlier than expected. Despite precautions, one of his hives collapsed. He found it one morning, silent, still. The workers had died. The queen was gone. Darragh knelt beside the hive for a long time, not as a scientist, not as a quizzer, but as a man in grief. He mourned, and in the spring, he rebuilt. From the lost hive's remnants, he nurtured a new colony, Hopewell. Years later, a special anniversary episode of The Chase aired. To mark the moment, Bradley invited each chaser to share something the audience would never guess. When it was Darragh's turn, he stepped forward and said, "When I'm not quizzing, I'm beekeeping." Laughter rippled. But then he continued, voice softer now, because sometimes, in a world full of noise, The smartest thing you can do is listen to the quiet. The crowd fell still, and for the first time in the show's history, the menace received a standing ovation. In his Berkshire meadow, under the sway of the wildflowers and the hum of new hives, Darragh Ennis tends to his bees. He still quizzes, still wins, still defeats contestants with frightening ease. But he's not just the menace anymore. He's a guardian of the earth, a voice for science, a symbol of intellect and humility. And every jar of menace gold carries more than honey. It carries a story of a man who found peace in a hive, wisdom in a wingbeat, and purpose in a garden far from the spotlight.